Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gurgle and telling a big lie? I just want to make sure that's what I heard you say.
That's right.
That's right. The Reverend Al Charlatan. Democrats need more Al Charlatans, don't they? They can't get enough of Al Charlatan. NBC News, what do they pay him 7 figures to come out and say things like that? A very, very good Friday to you. Welcome back once again. 888-630-9625. Democrats rioting in California, along with their illegal alien cartel member, human traffickers, child sex trafficking, drug smuggling. Friends. They're gang member friends. They're cartel friends. The Democrat Party. We've got military helicopters out there and units of federal law enforcement being attacked by illegal aliens hurling rocks at them. Of course, they're working in the marijuana fields of Southern California and using illegal alien child labor, including at least 8 children grabbed yesterday who were there unaccompanied by any adults, and that's okay. That's good stuff. But let me. We were just talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein list. And it's funny, we were talking about this, and Kevin joined us here in the studio, and we're talking. So everybody calls it the Epstein list, and for years, and then the Justice Department comes out under Pam Bondi and says, well, there is no list. So we've been calling it the Epstein list for years and years now. So, more than half a decade we've been talking about this, and now there's no list, and that's got a lot of people rankled, and I understand why. And I've got to say, Pam Bondi and maybe Kash Patel and maybe Dan Bongino could come out and explain more, just provide more information. I have always thought that more information is better, but that's me. And I want to share this with you because a story came out yesterday, and after we got off the air yesterday, the headline is Epstein victims numbered over 1,000. What? More than 1,000? Because our last wonderful and brilliant caller, Charlie from Florida, said, what's the deal? Oh, no, I apologize. It wasn't. It was Jim. And Jim said, what about the victims, Epstein's victims? Why aren't they having a press conference where they should get that lawyer lady, Gloria Allred, who's never seen a fight she didn't want to have. Probably wouldn't be fun to be married to. But she, Gloria Allred, famous, feminist lawyer. And why isn't she all over this? I don't understand. Why didn't she have 1,000 clients? Aren't there billions of dollars somewhere on an island and a jet airplane that maybe needs to be distributed to the victims? But Epstein victims numbered over 1,000, far more than previously known, federal investigators say. Justice Department memo says sex trafficker, that's Jeffrey Epstein, victimized more than 1K people over 2 decades. They had to say 1K because, those 3 zeros after the one, that they don't want to use that much ink. They're trying to slow the rise of the oceans, I think. Jeffrey Epstein had more than 1,000 victims over more than 2 decades as a sex trafficker, according to federal investigators. Far more than prosecutors alleged in his 2019 indictment. And how many women have come forward with civil lawsuits combined. So a number of women have come forward with civil lawsuits. And, Jim, I think this might go to what you're talking about because some of the accusers may have sued, right, civilly for money and been awarded money. And then as a part of the agreement, very often they build in non-disclosure agreements because you take the cash payout. And the media is fine with this because they're not really a very good media or legitimate media. But according to the Fox News people, in a 2-page memo published last week, but only written about yesterday by Fox News, the Justice Department, FBI said a review of the case found Epstein had no incriminating client list, right? There's no incriminating client list. and that no additional files connected to the investigation could be released, and that his death was indeed a suicide, as prior federal investigations found. Now, the thing is, now we say, well, you got 1,000, more than 1,000 victims, right? And some of them sued civilly. Some of them may have gotten a cash pay. Maybe Gloria Allred's been paid off, too. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But you'd think that her name would be in the middle of this, to be sure. So a victims' compensation fund set up for Epstein accusers, some as young as 14 years old at the time of their abuse, paid out more than $120 million to 150 people as of August of 2021, according to Fox Business. Details about the hundreds of additional victims remain unclear. The FBI declined to comment. Why would the FBI decline to comment? See, you guys are the new guys. You're supposed to be the people that comment. However, the memo, new memo, authorities said that most of the unreleased files pertain to minors or victims who appear to be minors, and that more than 10,000 videos and images included illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. And Pam Bondi talked about this last week. I understand you're not going to release child porn. That shouldn't even be a part of this. You don't have to, pretend that you're being indignant. Yeah, we know you're not going to release Jeffrey Epstein child porn videos. But they, it seems to me, might be evidence in court cases, and nobody else is going to be charged, just Ghislaine. And she's doing 20 years, right? And that's it. And we should all just calm down and sit over there. And Jeffrey Epstein killed himself because, then there's missing 1 minute of video like the Rosemary Woods tape and the Richard Nixon Oval Office, and everybody's fine with that. Oh, sure, they were swapping out the VHS tape at the time, so there's 1 minute of missing video. It all stinks. And, okay, so they set up a fund, and maybe the victims are cashing in on the fund, and I don't mean to be that way about it, but you go in and say, well, hey, there's a pile of cash over here, and when I was 14, and now maybe I can get $800,000, but there's got to be more to it than that, doesn't there? I think there does. That's me. Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. It's spelled Ghislaine, but it's pronounced Ghislaine. Ghislaine. En français. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of trafficking in a trial of her own. Wasn't she the subject of a 60 Minutes interview and a 60 Minute story? What's that? She is appealing the verdict, and until she's exhausted her legal options, neither the FBI nor federal prosecutors are expected to release criminal evidence that hasn't already surfaced in court. Okay, that's great. However, the new memo, authorities said that most of the unreleased files pertain to minors. Victims appear to be minors. And again, the videos. So the whole thing is just a mess. It's been a train wreck. And again, 2019. That's 6 years ago, if I'm doing my math correctly. Am I doing my math correctly? I think that's 2019, 2025. Let me do my gazintas over here. I'm counting my gazintas. So we got that. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, I can't believe what time it is and that it's Friday. It's Friday in America. And I mentioned it. I'm talking about my new phone, which has a really great new camera. It's a fancy iPhone with a great camera. And you see the moon last night? Did you see the moon last night? Yeah, you people, neither did Michael. Nobody. People need to look up in the sky a little. Come on, look up in the sky. The moon came up at 9 o'clock or something. But is that right? Sleep at 9 o'clock. There it is. All right, so we got that. And now Alan Dershowitz, I think he's got some splaining to do. We've got that going. Yes, indeed. Now, something crazy happened yesterday that I thought deserved a little bit of notice, and that is that our worst Supreme Court justice, who our worst Supreme Court justice is? It's Ketanji Brown Jackson. She was appointed by the brain dead guy by his brain. She's a broke. She's a no good. Joe Biden. Lunch Bucket Joe. Sleepy Joe. And Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's out there. She just keeps screwing up everything, I've got to say. And she was at an event, a public event where she was speaking. Probably shouldn't do this. I think she's not good at it. In Indiana yesterday. And she is not, she's not good at anything from what I can tell. CBS News has the headline, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson says she worries about state of democracy. Not the state of democracy, just state of democracy. Does she think democracy is one of our 50 states? Do they at CBS News? Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson told a group of lawyers and judges on Thursday, that's yesterday, the state of democracy, the state of our democracy, is what keeps her up at night and nothing else. I have to look into her personal life. But this is the state of our democracy, and she's a very, very political person, a very political animal, and not the brightest, and she has been, I think, publicly humiliated by Amy Coney Barrett, for example, in a decision quite recently. But she was at an event, and the CBS News people have the story. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson told a group of lawyers and judges on Thursday, state of our democracy is what keeps her up at night. And she, it was during a question and answer portion at an Indianapolis Bar Association meeting. She's at an Indianapolis, Indiana Bar Association meeting. And we have some audio from that because somebody made a videotape of this or a digital recording, like the Jeffrey Epstein tapes. These tapes are never tapes anymore, are they? It's all digital. They're not tapes. So here's Ketanji Brown Jackson, the most embarrassing Supreme Court justice, certainly of the modern era.
Then there are some times when, even after the principled dissent is written, I have a slightly different perspective or a different take on something, or this is an issue of particular importance to me for whatever reason, where I will say, forgive me, Justice Sotomayor, but I need to write on this case. And it's because I feel like I might have something to offer and something to add, and I'm not afraid to use my voice.
Oh, I'm not afraid to use my voice. Oh, how bold, how brave. You're a Supreme Court justice in the United States. I'm not afraid to use my voice. And that's the headline all over left-wing media, that Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Supreme Court justice, embarrassingly appointed by Joe Biden, she's not afraid to use her voice. Well, that's really great to hear. I'm glad you're not afraid to use your voice. Extraordinary stuff. The local media in Indiana are all over the story because it's a big deal. Supreme Court justice, even though it's Ketanji Brown Jackson. In Indiana, it tells the legal community, here's the headline here, I'm not afraid to use my voice. Well, isn't that wonderful? That's just great. She's not afraid to use her voice. You may recall that in a recent decision that she was embarrassed. She wrote the opposing, the dissenting opinion, and Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, not an embarrassment to jurisprudence at all, wrote the majority opinion, and Amy Coney Barrett had to write in the majority opinion, we will not, and because Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the dissenting opinion, we will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. Now, that is about the most humiliating, the most insulting sentence ever written in a majority opinion at the Supreme Court. And Amy Coney Barrett, she's not a rock thrower. She's, cool-handed and steady and calm. And she said, we're going to dwell on Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Just great stuff. Yes, sir. And there's more from her in Indiana. And isn't that amazing? Indiana, 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 you're okay. So I've got a little more of Amy Coney Barrett, and I've got more of the response to her embarrassing herself once again. You know, it's easy, of course, to brush off that tight feeling in your chest, little flutter in your heart, no big deal, just walk it off. Shortness of breath, it's probably nothing, right? But what if it's not? Now, I'm not the kind who runs to the emergency room every time an arm falls off, but, I do care about staying ahead of health matters, especially heart things. KardiaMobile, great company, KardiaMobile sent me their KardiaMobile 6L, for my honest opinion. And I got to tell you, it's an amazing little device, very impressive. About the size of a Band-Aid. Checks out 6 different functions in your heart. The most advanced personal EKG that you can buy. The FDA cleared it to detect atrial fibrillation, AFib, one of the leading causes of stroke, among other bad things. It's more accurate than those single lead wearables that you might have seen before. You might even have one. And it costs just a fraction of what a smartwatch costs. So whether you're at home, at work, traveling, in between doctor's visits, it'll give you peace of mind. And it might even save your life. Right now, for a limited time, for my listeners, that's you can get 10% off the KardiaMobile. All you have to do is go to Kardia.com. That's Kardia. Kardia.com. Or you can go to Amazon and use the code 106LPLANT. 106L, that's the device. Plant, that's me. It's easy. That's KardiaMobile 6L, sponsored by AliveCor. All right, we've got a little more of the embarrassing Supreme Court justice in Indiana. Even the Washington Post, I think, is making a little bit of fun of her. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. All right, Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked probing questions like, what's her favorite food and what's her favorite song? Because when you're a Democrat, they don't want to set the bar too high, and there were cameras there. They knew that she might say something incredibly stupid. And I've got the sound bites for you, the favorite food and the favorite song. And let's just say, to be real. To be real. Yeah, so a little more of her. And then, did you see the play in London where the stage was attacked because they were attacking the U.S. Capitol, the United States Capitol? It's like January 6th. I was having flashbacks. It was terrifying.
And what's your favorite song?
What is my favorite song? Probably to Cheryl Lynn's "To Be Real." It's a good song.
Oh yeah, it's a great song.
Loud laughter. It's hilarious that her favorite song is "To Be Real." Another hard-hitting session for the Democrat nominee to the court. Notice that no one's asking her challenging legal questions or constitutional questions, and nobody asked her about Justice Amy Coney Barrett, just humiliating her in public in an opinion. Somehow that didn't come up. I don't understand why that didn't come up. Why didn't that come up? Crazy. Then she was asked, what keeps her up at night? And that's why would anything keep her up at night? Why didn't she sleep like a baby? She's a member of the United States Supreme Court. How bad can it be?
What keeps you up at night?
I would say the state of our democracy.
They all clap. Oh, that keeps me up at night. The state of our democracy.
I would say that I am really very interested in getting people to focus and to invest and to pay attention to what is happening in our country and in our government.
Focus and invest, and then start firebombing Jewish governors' houses and shooting ICE agents in Texas while dressed like your grandmother. Well, dressed like Anthony Perkins from the movie Psycho. because that's all perfectly normal. I'm worried about the state of the Democratic Party, which seems to be at war with civilization. Isn't that amazing? Now, who else? See, when we heard Ketanji Brown Jackson say this, what keeps you up at night? It's the state of our democracy. We were reminded of none other than Kamala Harris when she was running for president. And amazingly, she got a very similar question.
What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy.
Ah.
And that I can talk about because that's not classified.
It's not classified.
It really does.
What keeps her up at night is not classified. I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah. And then we figured out what might really be keeping Ketanji Brown Jackson up at night because she was asked what's her favorite food.
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food? I don't know. What is my fried chicken? Probably.
Okay.
Fried chicken.
Okay. Let's give it up for fried chicken, everybody. All right.
And they all laugh and clap over fried chicken, which I think is keeping her up at night. I think it's probably might be a little too spicy, a little too greasy. Maybe she's got some stomach issues keeping her up at night with fried chicken because everybody knows that fried chicken is delicious.
Anybody that don't like that, Daddy, don't like chicken on Sunday.
That's exactly right. As Sammy Davis Jr. would say, I think that's true. Pretty amazing stuff. Yes, sir. The Democrats, they're a funny bunch. When I say funny, I don't mean like comedians funny, because the Democrats, they've destroyed comedy. Comedy has been murdered, was choked to death in the cradle, held underwater in the bassinet. Isn't it amazing? Yes, it is. There is a crazy story. They've got a play going on in London, England, and the play is apparently some kind of a recreation of January 6th. Is that what it is? It's a January 6th thing, and they attacked the stage. And it became violent because they're insane, and it's been going on for a little while apparently. Slate magazine, extreme left-wing, communist, anti-capitalist, love the jihad. I attended the show where people reenacted January 6th. It played out very differently. At the beginning, players were laughing. I was asked to chug a beer. Then the mood changed. Why would the mood change? I don't understand. What's going on with that? The crazy left. They're violent everywhere you go. They're violent in England. They're violent. They're violent everywhere you look. They're violent in Texas. They're violent in California. How many places do they have to be violent? Honestly. But they do love violence. Fight for America, currently running in London. It's an interactive theatrical experience reenacting the events of January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. Is there any play about the reenacting Donald Trump being shot through the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania? Have they done that? It's a tabletop strategy. That's what they're saying. Tabletop because they put on plays, but everything is political because they're all mentally ill. And just amazing. The Democrats, and they turn it violent. That's what they do. And the Washington Post has a little half-baked piece on it today. But it's mostly nonsensical because it's the Washington Post, and you know how they are. Theater goers in London, they get violent because they are who they are. They are the Democrats. And in England, they don't call them Democrats, but they're the left. And so, you know how they are. Wah, wah, wah. They're the same. In London, theater goers reenact storming of the U.S. Capitol. And that's okay with a Democrat. Now, how many? I think Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a racist police officer at the Capitol on January 6th. The only person to be killed that day, a couple of others died in a crowd of 300,000. You know, you get a city of 300,000 people. Several people are going to die that day. So statistically, it's likely that somebody's going to have a heart attack or a drug overdose or something like that. But only one person died by way of violence. And that was Ashley Babbitt, who served 12 years in the United States Air Force. But they're doing the reenactment in London theater because, you know how they are.
How would you feel if you saw crowds storm and break down the doors of the British Parliament, kill 5 cops, injure 145, or the German Bundestag, or the Italian Parliament? I think you'd wonder.
Yeah, that never happened, but your brain doesn't work. I understand. That's an issue, to be sure. Our Democrat Party, aren't they something? I'm gonna move on from there because I'm not much of a theater in London person. I think I did go to one show in London, and my best girl dragged me there because I'm heterosexual, and so that wouldn't be on my short list. Hey, we're in London. Let's go see a play. We got that. All right, now let's go to Mom Donnie. Mom Donnie, who is a communist, hates capitalism, hates the Jews from the river to the sea. He wants to wipe out Israel and start a global intifada. That is to say, an armed war against Jewish people everywhere in the world. And he won the Democratic primary for the mayor's race in New York City. And some Democrats are panicked that it might hurt them politically. They don't care that he hates all the Jews and wants to kill them and that he's a Muslim, genocidal, racist, anti-Semite. They're fine with that. They're just thinking, well, what does this mean for us politically? Could this hurt us politically? And that's all they're thinking about. And he hates capitalism, right? Well, just amazing stuff. The DNC chair, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, who nobody knows, is a guy named Ken Martin. Does anybody raise your hand if you know Ken Martin? Might be a couple people in Washington, D.C. That's about it. But DNC chair Ken Martin naturally went on PBS on the NewsHour so they could give him a tongue bath because, hot oil rub down. It's a circle fest on PBS for the Democratic Party. And asked about Mamdani and the fact that he is a globalize the intifada guy, which is what if you were Adolf Hitler today, your chant would be globalize the intifada and from the river to the sea. And the DNC chair, Ken Martin, was asked on the panhandler broadcasting system, suckling on the taxpayer teat. We're buying their beach houses and their golden Mercedes-Benz station wagons. And, hey, Mamdani, he says, let's wipe out all the Jews and kill them all. What do you say about that, Ken Martin, chair of the DNC?
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
Outright.
There's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition.
Total dodge. Just complete. And the clown. It's like, well, I asked you about a very specific mantra, and he's been asked about it again and again. And he refuses to say, well, I'm not with globalize the intifada. And he is de facto for the globalization of the intifada, which is jihad against the Jewish people in order to exterminate them like the Nazis and, the Islamists like the Islamic Revolution of Iran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran and Hamas and your Muslim nominee for the mayor of New York race is a globalize the intifada guy. And when the DNC chair was said, well, there's no, I agree with on everything. Sure, that wouldn't be right. And total dodge. And Ken Martin, DNC chair.
We have conservative Democrats. We have centrist Democrats. We have labor progressives like me. And we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party.
Yeah, a big tent. You want to kill the Jews? So do we. You want to gun down federal law enforcement? So do we. You want to open up our borders and wave in the cartels and the gangs and use the illegal alien children to pick our pot plants in Camarillo, California? So do we. We'll fight. We'll fight. We'll get AR-15s and we'll fight and we'll fight and we'll fight. Isn't that amazing? So he didn't answer any of that. Now, there is a former member of the New York City Council, a Democrat, of course, by the name of Rory Lansman. And he is, and I think he was in the State House, the New York State House as well, Rory Lansman. And he was live on the television this morning. Lifelong Democrat, elected repeatedly as a Democrat in New York, which is a Democrat state, overwhelmingly, and shouldn't be. And said, hey, Rory Lansman, what's with all the, Jew hatred and the Nazi rhetoric, and let's wipe Israel off the map and wage a global war against Jewish people? What's with all that? And the lifelong Democrat elected New York City Councilman Rory Lansman.
Unfortunately, there's been an explosion of anti-Semitism in this country since October 7th on college campuses, in K-12 schools, in the workplace, especially here in New York City. And the formula is simple. You demonize the state of Israel, and then you demonize the Jewish people who support Israel, which is most Jewish people.
Yeah, I noticed that, too. That'd be most Jewish people, no doubt about it. That's the thing. Yeah, he's still holding elected office as a Democrat and a member of the New York City Council, New York State representative. And now, he's like a Queens guy. But there's been an explosion. As the Democrats can do that. They control pop culture to a very large extent. Hey, let's make anti-Semitism popular. I'll bet you $1 you can't do that. Like Randolph and Mortimer Duke. Yeah, I bet I can turn the country into like Nazi Germany. Let's see what we can do. Rory Lansman.
And so a public official like Zoran Mamdani, who the day after the October 7th attacks put out a statement attacking Israel, who refuses to recognize the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state, who supports the boycott, divestment, sanction movement against Israel, who refuses to condemn a phrase like globalize the Intifada. He is directly contributing to the anti-Semitism that we're experiencing here in New York, and he has no place in public life, and certainly not in the Democratic Party, in my view.
He's got no place in the Democratic Party, in my view. He seemed to be a calm person that you could have a beer with, and maybe not, though, because they trick you. So but he admitted that the Democrat Party has made anti-Semitism popular, and that their guy, he says, has no place in the Democrat Party. But that's where he's wrong. Probably Rory Lansman has no place in the Democratic Party anymore because, the frothy anti-Semites are front and center. They love anti-Semitism. They all rally around. Of course, they love killers like Luigi Mangione, who just murdered a CEO because the Democrat Party. Isn't it amazing? Rory Lansman.
I can assure you of one thing. I represented a district in Queens, which is a little more suburban. And one thing that middle-of-the-road voters are not looking for is more socialism, more anti-Semitism coming out of the Democratic Party.
Well, I don't think you should be getting any middle-of-the-road voters, quite honestly. You guys. Now, Mahmoud Khalil, who came in on a visa in which he lied on the application to go to Columbia University, where Barack Hussein Obama went. And Mahmoud Khalil, the Democrats want to make sure he's not deported because he is from a river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Wipe out the state of Israel, the only Jewish state. Wipe out the Jews, Mahmoud Khalil. And every Democrat in the country is jumping to his defense. Well, guess what Mahmoud Khalil did yesterday? That's coming up.
Hey up, Mortimer, I won the bet. Here, $1.
Now, Mahmoud Khalil, the allegedly Palestinian Arab Muslim born in Syria who came here to raise, Nazism against the Jewish people. at Columbia University, where Hussein Obama attended school. He's now suing President Trump for $20 million.
Today, we filed for $20 million in damages. It's either the $20 million or an official apology.
So if President Trump apologized, would you accept that?
If it's a formal apology that, of course, would reverse his fascist agenda, then definitely I would accept that.
His fascist agenda. And then he said, now back to slaughtering the Jews. While they call people fascists, their real goal is to wipe Israel off the map from the river to the sea and wage a global intifada against the Jewish people. And then they have the mendacity to call anybody Hitler, Nazi, fascist. He's the fascist, just by the way. And there's a funny story out of, listen to the largest U.S. teachers union mocked for misspelling fascism in an anti-Trump agenda item, too rich to parody. The New York Post has the story. And it's true, the nation's largest teachers union faced ridicule this week. Imagine that. When they misspelled the word fascism in a resolution opposing President Trump. The NEA, the National Education Association, more than 3 million teachers nationwide, they mangled that, and it's again put out a statement attacking Trump. Why? You're a teachers union. And they're calling him a fascist and, said he's peddling fascism just like this Nazi, this Islamist Jew killer, and a hero of the Democrat Party, by the way. But the NEA, they put out a statement and they said, the NEA pledges to defend democracy. They're doing that again. They're destroying democracy against Trump's embrace of fascism, right, by using the term of fascism. And they misspelled the word fascism, and they're the teachers. I think we're onto the problem here.
Show some RESPICT.
They're really something, the Democrat Party. So much I did not get to. Too much. Yeah, Mahmoud Khalil suing the teachers union. They call everybody fascist. They don't even know how to spell it. We've got a joke from the Biden White House allegedly testifying on Capitol Hill today. I'm going to guess that she's not going to answer any questions either, because that's what they do. And the news media will applaud the fact that they're obstructing justice. I'll see you on Monday.